So I would like to call the November meeting of the Deschutes Public Library District Board to order. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see your faces. This is our first dark meeting.
Yeah.
Late fall has started now. So thanks to everybody for being here. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. And that includes the meeting minutes from the October 8th meeting and district disbursements. Have people had a chance to review these items? Any additions or corrections or questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Let's see, I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Okay, Todd, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, let's see, Aaron
Aye.
and Michelle
Aye.
and Laura,
Aye.
Betsy, yeah,
Aye.
okay.
All right. Next up is our public comment section. Is there any member of the public that is present that would like to make a comment to the board? Okay.
No.
All right. Seeing none, we will proceed to our first order of business, which is our first quarter financials. So Robert, would you like to take it away?
Yes, hello everyone. Todd, I think if you go to full screen view, it might be a little easier to read the report.
Sure.
You go up to the top right where it says view,
Yeah.
and it's the last option in that list, all the way down.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Hello, and I'm very pleased to be presenting the first quarter financials for this current fiscal year. Next month is when we will be presenting our annual financials and audit review from the prior fiscal year. So this quarter is always a little bit out of sync time-wise. There was a time when we were doing them all of this in the same month, and that almost made it worse because it was just like a flood of financial information, keeping track of whether not now or last month, last quarter, or what. Sorry, so looking at the first quarter, we're running from July 1st to September 30th, 25. And we always start off with this cash reconciliation report, which is kind of the fund balances and also a sense of where the cash and cash equivalents are held by the district. This one, I always like to do a bit of comparison year over year to see kind of, are we looking at stability? Are we looking at change? Do we understand change? So rather than go line by line, a couple things I'll highlight for you. First is that bottom line number, that modified accrual fund balance sitting at 90 million. This time last year, we were at about 147 million. Okay, so that's a big change, and we're going to try and take a look at why that change happened, where it came from. So that's that next layer of analysis. If we look at the various fund balances, even now it's a little bit hard to see when we zoom in. With the various fund balances, we look at general funds sitting at 14,769,000. This time last year we were at 14,050,000. So roughly the same, slightly better, in fact, at this quarter this year versus Q1 last year. So some relative stability there with that fund balance in general fund. Reserve fund, same, and grant fund, roughly the same, although there were some deltas there just because of the changeover from the way we were carrying some of the foundation funds in grants. Bond capital fund, that's the big change, down 57 million from Q1 last year, which is exactly what we saw in terms of the modified accrual fund balance difference as well. So there we have it. The big change from 1 year ago was that we spent $57 million on the construction projects, which lines up pretty well with what we saw in the various monthly reports coming from credit on the projects. Debt service fund, again, roughly stable. So really all of that motion is that bond capital fund. Let's see. Moving on to the highlights. So this is a chance to kind of have just a little bit of narrative to the various numeric tables that follow in the rest of the document. We're about 25, or we are 25% through the fiscal year as of this report, so we would expect that the kinds of expenditures that run continuously through the year would track to roughly 25%. Things like salaries and benefits, where if the workforce is relatively stable, you'd expect that to be kind of a smooth set of expenditures through the year. And it looks like personal services, benefits and salary tracking to 24%. So right on track. It's it's fairly close to numbers, so to the expectation. So we are going to keep an eye on that because we want to make sure that we stay below that number, since that's our appropriation number by the end of the year. But right now, not a cause for concern, just an area for us to keep track of. In terms of resourcing, this one's not a continuous kind of a number. So our tax receipts mainly land in Q2, mainly in November. And so we see that borne out here, where only 1% of the current year's tax receipts were received in the first quarter. That's pretty consistent with every year. Once we hit Q2 and the Q2 report, it'll jump from 1% to something like 90% just in 3 months' time. Other major sources of revenue are the contract with Jefferson and Crook County and the Law Library MOU. The MOU actually funded 2 days after this report, so if you look really carefully in the report, it doesn't actually show up. It's carried as like a receivable, but then 2 days later we actually received it. Other areas to look in expenditures in the general fund are those materials and services that tracked around 25%, or rather the ones that tracked higher or tracked significantly lower, and ask ourselves why. Overall, materials and services ran around 26% of budget. So again, tracking pretty consistently to where we might expect if we were doing continuous monthly expenditures. That said, there are a few items where we do a lot of upfront funding, or some elements that we knew when we set up the budget we weren't going to be spending the full year. So a couple there: auditing. Most of our auditing expenditures in Q1, Q2, we're making payments to both the auditor and the CPA relative to the audit for those months. And so we'll see that pretty much fully expended in the next quarter's report. Another one is rent. This year in particular, our rent expense was really budgeted for July to December, because both the lease at Borden's Corner for East Bend, as well as the last remaining months on the lease at the Redmond Design Center are done December 31st. And so that budget really was a 6-month budget. And if we look at the way it expenses in the table, it's pretty consistent with where it should be for being essentially 3 months in on 6 months worth of rent. And then other ones that have annual subscriptions, annual payments, where we're doing a bunch of that up front. Oftentimes, if we're making a payment in July, this is kind of a judgment call on my part doing the books. I don't always back that out and carry that as a prepaid only to expend it through the year. Usually I'm carrying prepaids just across year boundaries. And so a lot of times in these reports, we just see those big expenditures up at the front of the year. And then we just kind of look at it and say, yep, that's consistent, and move on. The expenditures where we really aren't spending a lot are ones that vary from year to year: meeting support, volunteer recognition, staff recognition, non-employee labor, recruitment costs. Every year we set aside a certain amount of money based on our best guess of what we're going to need, and then the year kind of unfolds as it is. So nothing truly of concern that's underspent at this point to mention in this report. And then finally, in the general fund, we're looking at capital outlay. So a big chunk of this is our physical book collections. We've expended in the first quarter about 14% of what was budgeted for our capital outlay. The majority of that was books. IT has planned purchases throughout the year, but these years that we're, especially with opening Redmond last year and opening Central this year, a lot of the IT expenditures are actually coming through the bond funds because we're provisioning for these new buildings. And so there's a certain amount of, we budgeted for the what if on general fund, but they may go unspent in general fund because really those were for our regular purchase cycles, and the regular purchase cycles have kind of been disrupted by the opening of new buildings. Okay, moving on to the reserve fund. So the reserve fund we really didn't, we don't have anything budgeted here. We didn't really make any adjustments there, so really we're fully resourced there. We're earning good interest on there, a little slightly higher than anticipated. And we're just keeping an eye on it for this year, so we kind of see where it's at towards the end of the year when we start asking ourselves, is there anything that we would want to draw from reserve fund in the future budget? Grant funds, we're about 38% resourced, and that's essentially carryover from ready to read funding for 2025. Ready to read funding for 2026 should be landing in January, and so we'll see that number increase. Yep, fingers crossed, that's what I thought, in January.
Believe it when you
Yeah,
see it.
exactly. And then in terms of expenditures, the majority of the expenditures with ready to read tend to be either in Q1 or in Q4, although we do things throughout the year. That's where a lot of that hits. And so we'll see that kind of like just chugging along throughout the year. Capital Projects Fund, and Greg will talk in greater depth to that, but just from the financial standpoint, we're landing right at 100% from where we budgeted to be resourced. So we'll look at the data on that one, but really our ending balance ended up a little bit higher, and we're actually probably going to end up more resourced than we had budgeted, because we still have an anticipated $1 million in grant funding from the Department of Energy for Central Libraries photovoltaic. And that's going to potentially, if everything kind of makes its way through the bureaucratic wickets, we'll get that this year, and so it'll land in this budget. So anyway, in terms of resourcing, we're really sitting well from where we thought we would be when we budgeted this year. Expenditures really on track, 27%, and we're a quarter of the way through the year. And then finally, we have the debt service fund. Debt service fund is another one of these that is resourced through tax receipts. So right now it's at 22%, but that's just basically carryover from last year's budget remaining balance. The majority of the current year's tax receipts will be received in Q2. So actually this report is that's a typo. 1% of current year's tax receipts have been received. It's just the same as the note for the general fund. And the rest will be received in Q2, or a big chunk of it in Q2. Q2 is also when we'll see the interest payment for the debt servicing, and then Q4 is when we make the interest and principal payment on that series. So yeah, so then we just look at the data, all of those things I've said. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we can do that. If you look at the data first, it's basically all the things that I said, but I did want to take a stop before we look at the investment portfolio and ask if you had any questions about anything you see in either the highlights or in this table.
No, I appreciate you breaking it out into such great layman's terms for all of us and giving us that benchmark of 25% and then looking at those swings. So, yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so the other thing I would point us towards is, as part of our investment policy, I report to the board quarterly on our investment portfolio. So I'll scroll all the way down to the actual table here, because I find this is a little bit more helpful. And then if you wanted the narrative, it's just the next page of that narrative set. So basically, what are we looking at here? We've got, this is the portfolio of remaining investments from the bond proceeds. So we started out in 2021 with something like $225 million, of which we invested a good chunk of that into a variety of treasury bills and municipal bonds and other commercial paper. And we put that together with our investment broker. And at the time, we didn't have a formalized investment policy, so we were kind of running based off of just state of Oregon standards. Since then, the board's adopted an investment policy. So every quarter we take a look at this now with the help of the broker and say, all right, is this thing actually in compliance with that policy, or do we need to make changes and adjustments to this portfolio? Well, it starts to get really simple this late in the game. We really only have 4 treasury bills and or treasury notes remaining in this portfolio. Let me zoom in a little bit more here for you. And too much. So we have these 4 remaining treasury notes and treasury bills. We have about 28 million in the LGIP account. So overall, the remaining invested cash between LGIP and the treasury note investments is 72 million. That's after all of those notes mature. So if you're, again, a sharp eye on these financials, if you look at the current fund balance in the capital projects, it's lower than this by about 2 million. So we're anticipating about $2 million more in terms of the overall investment maturity on these, because this column is the par value. So it's going to be this plus any of the coupons between now and then. So we're looking at that. We're going to see one of them mature in Q2. When it does, we're just going to cash it out because we're at the point in the project where we want to draw on all of these for cash flow. And so each of these, basically by the end of this fiscal year, this report will go away. I will produce this table one last time in Q4, in the Q4 report, when that last bond matures. And then basically I can continue to report on the LGIP balance, but that's basically that front page of the report. In terms of balancing, you look at these are all treasuries, which our policy said you can have 100% treasuries. That's great. The restrictions in the policy are other kinds of presumably higher risk types of investments, things like commercial notes, municipal bonds, etc. And so we look at those in this compliance matrix and compare it against our investment policy. And based on this and in the analysis, we're looking at a pretty solid portfolio for the district that's in compliance with the investment policy. We're not overextended. We don't have things that are with too long of a maturity that we might have a cash flow crunch, and everything that's invested in it has a good risk rating. And that brings me down to our general and reserve funds portfolio. And this one is when we were projecting a certain amount of unappropriated funds in the budget, then we start to look at, are there better returns on investment, or at least ways to diversify our investment rather than having it all in LGIP? And that's what this reflects. So as of September 30th, we had about 5.5 million in LGIP with another 11 million spread across a multitude of treasury notes, essentially each with their own maturing dates to make things line up with anticipated cash flows. Again, looking at the balance of it, almost all of it's treasury notes, other than a municipal bond with Multnomah County, and then a chunk of this investment in LGIP. So if we look at that in terms of the maturity dates are below our threshold of 456 days. Our balance is again in compliance with the investment policy. And then in terms of the types of investments, the majority, in fact, all of them are AAA rated through Moody's. Any questions about our investments?
However, I have a basic question, and that is, could you explain to me, as I'm newer, what a coupon means when you're talking about the treasury note?
I always find myself being really cautious talking about bonds because I know it just enough to get myself into trouble.
Okay.
Which is just, I don't want to say something to mislead you.
Sure.
So this is my understanding of a coupon. So when you purchase a treasury note, treasury bill, there's a rate of return that's associated with that. It's essentially what you get either annually or at the end of the maturity. In addition, certain notes, I think the longer maturity type notes will pay 6-month or even quarterly additional payments. They're almost like mini interest payments. So you don't get all of the maturity at the end. And in fact, oftentimes it ends up being slightly higher than just the overall maturing interest rate, because it's essentially like a premium to entice somebody in the bond market to purchase that.
Understood. So it's an advantage for us to carry those.
It is an advantage for us to carry those because and it's hard to reflect in the report because it does result in higher rate of return. But it's a little bit hard for me to just like document all of the little kind of quarterly bits and pieces. And so usually I feel like presenting a more conservative number in terms of returns is better.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Robert?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Sounds like we're on track. Another thorough report, so thank you very much. I do appreciate it also that you explain things in terms that we all can understand. Okay, our next item on the agenda is community engagement events, our programming. So Liz is going to be presenting to us. Todd, do you want to do any introduction?
Yeah, this, we were lucky to get Liz, because as the board, we were talking about this at our last meeting and wanted more information. Also consider this part A or one, because we also do programming through our community librarians, and Sarah Thompson will be coming and presenting to us in December with that part. And Liz, I'll have to say, is kind of been on the ground from the beginning of our events programming up until now. So not only should she tell you who we are, but also can tell us how we got here. So, yes.
Yeah, thanks, thanks for having me, and thank you for serving on the board. I know it's a lot of time and we appreciate you. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about who we are and then tell you what we do. I've got some great pictures, and then I'm gonna tell you about where we're going, and I've got some data to share also. So who we are. Oh. Fantastic. Rob, great start.
Near the laptop.
Or you might just have to advance. No, click back on the slide.
There it goes.
Okay.
Something happened.
Now it's just got, there we go. Okay, perfect. Thanks, friends. So there I am. I was hired in 2002 by Chantal. We were a department of two. And it's just been a joy and pleasure to have been a part of this growing department. Laurel was hired in 2019, and I want to just say this about my team. Every single one of the people that I supervised was hired at sort of a seminal moment in not only our country's history, but our library's history. So Laurel, you'll notice, was hired just right prior to COVID. And she has learned to do her job 3 different times. In person, online, in person, in closed buildings, and then open buildings. So she's been through a lot. Elsa was hired right before Novel Idea, which is our biggest event. Becca was hired 2 weeks before our first festival of voices that we did out in Redmond. And our latest hire, Jenny, was hired a week or 3 weeks before last Novel Idea. So they've all come in at very busy times, but they are a formidable team and did not miss a beat, onboarded, and were working, organizing their own events within a month and a half-ish. So what we do, we do events, and events are, I'm sorry about this glitchy. So,
It allows us to calm down.
is that right? Yeah. So the nuts and bolts of events, we plan 4 to 6 months in advance. We are never the talent. We bring in talent and experts from outside and we hire them. We manage all the details, including contracts. We upload information to our local media partners. We do robust scheduling, and then we manage a budget. So fiscal year 24-25, we did 448 events with 22,000 people in attendance, and that's across the district. And we balance those numbers across the district based on population distribution. So it's an intentional number. We don't just throw darts at things. You may or may not know, we organize our programs every month around a theme. And all the themes start with the word no, which is our tagline, no more. So this month, I'm working on January right now, so I'll tell you, our theme in January is no tea. So we're organizing events all around tea making, we're doing programs around gossip, no spill the tea. And these themes are big and broad on purpose because it allows our team to be really creative and innovative in what they are organizing. We also do some big district-wide special events, which include a novel idea, which this year will be our 23rd year. Last year we tried the Festival of Voices. This year we didn't. We postponed that event. Hopefully it'll come back next year. We do the Train Man, which is always a very popular event. Laurel organizes the garden fair, which we've done in Sisters for 2 years. Last year, we moved to Redmond just to allow for more people to participate in that beautiful venue. And then we have some reoccurring events, including Death Cafe, which is something that Laurel does every month. It's been a really interesting, we have a death doula in our community, and she comes and leads these discussions, and Laurel reports that they're really, they are meaningful and a real opportunity for community building, a lot of discussion. And it's, the demographic is really interesting to look at. It's not who you would think. It's folks across a variety of ages. Elsa does Music Together. We work in partnership with a local music educator where they come and they do infant music together. And it's just a lot of joyful singing and clapping and little kids and their parents or caregivers singing together. And then Becca manages the Central Oregon Writers, or the Right Here program. Central Oregon Writers Guild is part of that. She does about 3 programs or events a month that nourish our writing community. And I'm gonna show you some really fun pictures. So these don't work on the thing, do they? This is an event that Elsa organized this year out in Sisters in partnership with a nonprofit out in Sisters. This was a family movie night. They showed Top Gun at the Sisters Airport, which is totally fun. Jenny McGee is organizing programs for teens and youth. And this was a partnering program with Board House, which is a local skateboard organization. And they did skateboard clinics at all the libraries. They did them out in the parking lots. And then they did the final at the pavilion. We've been working really diligently and intentionally on building our Spanish language events. Jenny McGee is managing that. So these are a couple of pictures of events that Jenny managed in partnership with Benditas, which is a local group that highlights Spanish speaking cultures. We've been doing some events, workshops in the makerspace. So this is a Dia de los Muertos Sugar Skull felting project that Jenny managed. And then showing some films. This is a project that Elsa did around Halloween. Science projects. And just some more examples. Here's the Death Cafe set up. They build an altar. We take people outside and get experiential learning going on. Bird watching. We partner with the Commons frequently and do music programs. We had a crepe making class in Redmond. Really kind of this. Oh, and this is the repair cafe that Laurel organizes. And the repair cafes, we started to do them in bilingually. So people bring in their whatever that's broken, and we have volunteers with the environmental center that help fix them. So people will come with a broken waffle maker and leave with a fixed waffle maker. And then these are my favorite ones because Becca has organized last 2 years an alpaca picnic at a local alpaca farm. Last year, a baby alpaca was born at the alpaca picnic. So it's just so much fun. It's just such joyful work. This is the downtown Redmond Hotel. We do the third Thursday open mic in Redmond, which has really become a very successful gathering. This is Helen, she's one of our, we call them super users. She is making a book there with the library rocks artwork. Helen attends, we see her a couple times a week. Okay. So these are just some 4 guiding principles of the events team. And we practice these with each other, we practice them when we are building our schedule. So we believe in learning from every event. We don't consider any event a failure. We consider those opportunities to look at what we could do differently. Is it the time of day? Is it the branch? Is it the topic? And we file all of that in our let's look at this next time folder. And I'll also acknowledge that there are some things we can't control, like the weather. It can be a real bummer. Smoke has become a problem in the summer. We believe in teamwork. We work really well together. We have to. We support each other in all that we do by sharing ideas, giving honest feedback, filling in. We each plan about, I don't, they all do. They plan about 10 to 12 programs a month. And sometimes life gets in the way and you get sick or something happens. And so we fill in for each other. We believe in excellent customer service, both internally and externally. And we believe in trying new things and seeing what sticks. And it's really one of the best things about our work is that, you know, it's never the same. And we get to learn alongside our customers and experience alongside of our customers. And that's really an exciting part of the work. So where we're going to Central, that's where we're going. We're exploring new opportunities and new spaces, including Central. And between January 1 and when we actually open the building to the public, we're going to be doing events in Bend at a variety of partner locations, including the Deschutes Children's Foundation, the Larkspur Community Center, Hanai. So we're getting to explore offsite again. And that means new collaborations, both with people outside of the organization and also building collaborations internally. We've been working a little more significantly with the librarians to bring forward events together, which is exciting. And we are expanding our team. Jenny McGee, our most recent hire, she is focused on teens and Spanish language learning, or Spanish language classes. I have some really exciting, both anecdotal and data I can document about how we've really expanded and increased servicing those populations. We're also hiring a new team member early in the year who will focus part of their time on makerspace events and workshops, which are really popular. All right, I think graphs are next. Okay, so we do track all of the data and these, and I can send these slides to you if you want. These events, this graph shows you events that are organized by series. I had the team this last summer. Everything that happened in the summer, June, July, were labeled as summer with the library. It's probably not an accurate reflection because it's like 33% of our programs in a year were all summer with the library series. And that's not, I don't think, inaccurate. So we're not going to do it that way next year. But so that gives you a look. You know, these Spanish language programs, we did 24 of them last fiscal year, which is double. And considering we only hired Jenny in March, it's a really significant increase. And then we also look at events by type because we are interested in what people are interested in. So programs about music, movie screenings, literature, lifestyle, health and wellness, history. We take a really deep look and take seriously what people all show us what they want to come to. And we use all this as we plan.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So when you have the number and then you have the percentage, is that how many events you had? And then what percentage of the total? So music's 44, you had 44 music events?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, exactly. And I realized I forgot an important slide, and I can also send you, like, which are the most popular.
yeah,
Mhm,
I get a
right.
sheet,
yeah.
I kind of stopped before I should have.
But how did you gauge most popular? Was that by attendee feedback or by attendance?
It's attendance.
Okay.
I mean, that's the rub of a lot of the work that libraries do, I think, is that our best indicator of success is people in the room. And that's sort of where we're at.
Yeah.
But I know that it's not the only factor. Like, if you have an event that only had 3 people, but you transform those people's lives, that's always worth doing. It just, you have to be able to tell the story. Data are just numbers, but there are stories behind the numbers. Okay, so we also track where people heard about the program. This here is age. A really interesting change that we are really excited about that we've seen in the where did you hear about this program? We used to rely a lot on, like, the newspaper, and they notoriously got things wrong. And we are now in full control of our own messaging. Just like between the events guide, the e-newsletter, and the webpage, that's the majority of where people are hearing about it. And that's exciting, that's good work. Because we are in control of our message. We're not relying on anybody else. That's exciting. You can see that our biggest lion's share of attendees, 60 to 80, what I call them lifelong learners. But this is changing. This is an interesting slide that will look at a 5-year trend that you will see a change, and that's because we hired Elsa and hired Jenny to focus on very particular groups of people. 92% of people at programs or events have library cards. This is the one I love. Did you learn something new? 5% said absolutely not. Most we have a repeat. We have lots of repeat customers. I would love to see this expand. But it's rewarding to see the folks, we develop relationships with these people. Okay, so this is the one. This is the one that I think is interesting. So 24-25, you can see that these younger people are showing up at greater numbers than they had in the last fiscal year. And then just some more 5-year trends, just a visual to demonstrate that lots of people have library cards, lots of people learn things, and lots of people come back. And then this is growth over the last 3 years. Our target number for 25-26 is 504 events, and that's even with reducing the number of events that our team will be organizing while we don't have a branch in Bend. Attendance is going up, and the number of offerings that we are able to provide continues to grow. And so now, any questions before I tell you how you can help? No? Like I said, I'm really proud of my team. I am, old enough to be their mother at this point, and I just learn so much from them every day, and they bring a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm and excitement to their work. So I'm really proud of them. So you can share your ideas. You can always send me an email. We're always looking for, hey, what about this? Or, hey, I have a friend who can talk about that. Perfect. And of course, you can attend an event, because it's always fun to see bored people in the room. And I think that's it. Any questions?
How many times or how often do your classes or your events have wait lists? Does that happen a lot? Not so
No,
much?
it's not, in classes with wait lists, it's about resource supplies and the cost of the program. So when we take people kayaking or snowshoeing.
Sure.
It's a spendy event and we can only accommodate so many people.
I just didn't know if you used that metric to inform maybe having more of those events or expanding the scope of the event or if it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, it does. I mean, most of our classes, when they have a limit, they do fill up with a wait list. But, and we would offer them a lot more if we had, more money.
Yeah.
So, there you go. There's the budget for next year. But, we also look at our events, especially the ones that have come with high ticket items. We are hoping to provide an experience for folks who may have barriers to those otherwise. And we offer them as much as we can fit into our budget. And they're beloved experiencers for folks, that would never have a chance to do that and make it to, so. Yeah,
With those big ticket events, do you have organizations or companies that you partnership to help kind of bear that financial burden? Do you ever have like sponsorships by one or less tours or organizations like that?
yes, and they give us a significant discount.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
that
work,
makes sense.
so.
Yeah.
Do we offer any type of scholarships to help offset those costs?
They're, well, to the people who participate,
Yeah.
they're free.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, so everything we
Sorry,
do, I mean,
yeah.
this is the it's the challenge and the joy. Everything that the library does is free and open to the public. So that's just part of the event's budget. Food classes, we make sure we have charcuterie classes. In October, I also did a spookery class where the charcuterie looks scary. And those food ones are always popular, but so are just straight up history presentations that come at a lower price tag. So it's all about balancing the budget. Yes.
Are there any new events that you are excited about offering with the new spaces?
Oh, thank you for that question, because I can't wait to get into that building. We have made really great use of Redmond. We've done events out on the patio and, on the south side of the building. And the garden fair was outside wrapping around the whole building, but we've done music out there. We did a marimba band out front, goats, yes, thank you, man, goats. And I thank Bree for always being willing to say yes as we move forward and try things. Yeah, so there will be opportunity, that patio that I've only been out to the building once, but so that patio that's on the south side of the building, I guess, is that right? That's gonna be a phenomenal space. There are also little nooks and crannies all throughout the building that when I was going on the tour, I'm like, that'd be fun. I think that'll work. Yeah. Yes,
First of all, that's very exciting. I loved this presentation.
thank you.
I'm curious for attracting, families with younger kiddos.
Mhm.
Have you ever considered, or do you offer childcare for any events?
We've talked about it. We can talk about it again. It just seemed like we didn't have the facility, the right setup facility wise. There was checking in and checking out of kids. We go out to these for events and we are a single solitary person doing this. And so the idea of like, I'm gonna try to run this program and now I'm gonna try to have to check people in at the daycare. So yes, and it's a possibility. Everything's always possible.
Can I offer something?
Yes.
So that group, C4C, which did the
Yes.
partnership with the airport movie night. So, they frequently run events in Sisters at the school and they partner with a group called Starshine.
Mm.
And Starshine is a childcare program. And so when someone from the community, like myself, goes to a C4C event, there's always, often childcare provided for free if you're at a community meeting, and they do it like out of the school library, they don't need a big space.
Right.
But I wonder if there might be opportunities now as we have these beautiful spaces and younger families might want to come and participate, and
Mhm.
we could have a few select events with childcare. It might open up some of those demographics.
Yeah, thank you. That is,
Yeah.
I think, worth pursuing. I will
Yeah.
start that to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there might be some other groups too.
Why don't you share a little bit about the partnerships over the years? Yeah, like.
Yeah, so we work pretty closely with a couple of organizations, Central Urban Writers Guild. Being one, Latino Community Association being another. We also partner with the Tower Foundation. We do page to movie screenings every quarter. Those are free and they pick a Title I school from Bend to be the beneficiary. The Assistance League shows up and gives out books and we get to watch a great movie.
Oregon Humanity.
Oh, okay, thanks, I'm just gonna. I know, Chantal's always really great about remembering. Oregon Humanities, we continue to partner with them doing, conversation projects. We just did one in Spanish, last month. We are starting to do, Latino Community Association, I do not want to, overlook the fact that we have been working closely with that organization to offer English classes. It's a 10 session series. They've done it twice in Bend. They've been doing it up in Redmond. It is such a wonderful way to bring folks into our buildings and they report just being really overwhelmed by the friendliness of the staff and the beautiful facilities that they get to. And next January, we're starting a technology class in Spanish with LCA. So, and that's been, I think, and Jenny McGee has done such a fantastic job. Really, she's part of the community, so she has access in. And she's doing programs, an origami class in Spanish. This sugar skull felting in Spanish. So just really taking seriously that directive to engage more closely with the Latino community.
I want to give kudos to Liz because Liz actually started so many of these partnerships and it's her individual relationships with many, many people that broke down barriers, got us in to then have them partner with us.
I'm so grateful because I mean, I've been doing these programs with Benditas and Christina, who's the director of that organization. She's a very good English speaker. So we would do all of our organizing in English. And when I get to the event, I'd welcome people, but then I couldn't introduce her. I couldn't do anything but welcome people to the room. And now Jenny can really, step in and make people feel really at home and welcome in the library. So I gave it a shot, but Jenny's picked up the ball for sure.
Well, I wanted to add, I was at the East Bend Farewell event on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think your work in making events accessible with Spanish translation and ASL translation has really shown your efforts in making events accessible to wide members of the community.
Thank you. Thanks for being there.
And Liz and her team are doing all the grand opening events as well. We're gonna have like 3%.
Yeah, and I the highlight for the central opening is gonna be Todd, have you guys been in the building? So on that west side entrance where there's the vestibule and then there's the cafe, but there's that box thing. We're gonna make a hologram of Todd and he's gonna welcome people from on top of that. It's gonna be like the Overlord.
The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz. Anyway, thank you for being here to support the library and making decisions that really bring wonderful things to the community. I really appreciate it. And I'm always open for questions or ideas or friends that you have that want to do a presentation.
Well,
Okay.
and I'd like to say, I've kind of watched you in action your whole career, Liz, and you have assembled an incredible team, and the enthusiasm and passion and creativity that they all have is a direct result of your leadership. I mean, I think our library system has one of the best adult programming departments in the state, if not the nation. And that's because I think we continually surprise people. They come into these events and they say, "Oh, I didn't know a library would do something like that," and that's made people embrace our library, all different ages of people, because they're coming here and they are learning and they're getting surprised and amazed and entertained and educated. And that's all due to the creativity that you bring to your job and the dedication. So I really want to thank you for all your efforts over the years.
Thanks, Anne, and thanks to the team. And I did put your invitations to unveil. Do not miss this year. We have a big surprise planned. So don't miss it. Thank you.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
unveiled event is truly, if you're gonna make one event during the year, outside of novel idea, I mean, there's just so many great events, but that's a really fun one. Where the community has really embraced it um, and showing up, I think that board participation in our programming is really vital because that helps us see what we're doing in action. Uh, it's fine to hear reports at board meetings, but to really be present and see the work firsthand is irreplaceable because you can really see the community's response to all of that. So thank you very much, Liz. We could go on and on with this, but we also have another great program on deck. Emily is going to be talking about our collection development process. And this is always a very popular education item on our agenda. And it will generate many questions along the way. You will be bursting with questions, I'm sure. If you could hold your questions till the end of Emily's presentation, that would probably make her job a little bit more easy. And you've got your notepads in front of you, so just jot them down as questions come up because it's a fascinating presentation, and I know you'll really enjoy it. Todd, would you like to do an introduction?
No, just highlight that this also helps inform our annual monitoring report on collection development, which is probably it's the longest policy you have, and it's the shortest answer I give you every year, because really Emily is gonna inform us a lot on what's gonna happen. So, and Emily has been through a lot in the last month, so I'm here, she's gonna tell us a little bit about that. So
Yes.
she could be here, that it was definitely a challenge to be dealing with some of our collection issues and be able to be here, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, I felt like you all deserved to hear a little bit more about what's been going on. Also, I feel no pressure now.
I
I think
know.
that's quite the lead up to the presentation, but thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to get in front of the board, and some of you, this is my first time. So it's so good to meet you all in person. So yeah, I get the opportunity to share with you about the collection every year and the status. Unlike Liz, mine is all numbers, so hopefully mine is a bit more interesting as I take you through the story. Even though the presentation itself is all graphs, so. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about? Well, the first thing is there we go. This presentation, this year, I want to take you through a few national trends. It's always nice to know what is happening with libraries and collections, generally speaking. Then it is nice to see how we're comparing to some of our peers across the state. DPL is always a little unique in the way that we look at our collections, and it's nice to see how that approach is comparing to our peers. Then we'll look at our own circulations, and just the strength of our collection and what some of those trends mean based off of the money you give me and why I ask for what I ask for, and the trends that impact us and our community. And then last but not least, what happened over the last month with our primary materials vendor and how we're hopefully getting through that and what to expect over the next few months in the next year, so that you know how we're getting the books on the shelves for the coming buildings and years to come. So we have a lot to cover. Hopefully I am fast enough to get us through it all. So first thing is national trends. I only have a couple slides on this one. Both of the slides are from one particular article that came out of the library journal. The library journal article is what's up, what's down, budget and funding from 2025. So if you are wanting to read that full article, that's where this is referenced. But the one thing I wanted to call from this particular graph is the national trend that overall funding is actually up for most libraries. Most libraries, 2/3 of libraries actually saw a 6% increase in their overall library funding, which is great. However, almost all of those libraries did see a slight decrease in their collection budget, so 4.3% decrease in their collection budgets. And why? Why did that happen? How come you got an increase in your overall operating budget, but a decrease in your collection budget? And the reason for that is the increase in the cost of living. So much of that increase in the overall operating budget has gone towards personnel and the increase in the cost of living and what it takes to keep our libraries staffed. So the majority of that money has actually gone towards staffing costs, which has been trending nationwide, and, you know, something that I know this board also struggles with when we go through our budget cycle year after year. So we are not unique in that, and it's something that most libraries across the country are also seeing. The next trend is, by and large, circulation is going down across the country on physical formats, or just generally speaking. So use in libraries as far as the physical or the overall collection, so digital and physical circulations per capita has been trending down, and has been trending down all the way since 2014, for as long as, you know, the data from this particular article has been presented. The national circs per capita is down to 7.45 right now. We have always been above that national standard. Every single year that this statistic has come out, we've been actually well above that. So when I ran this statistic for us, we're at 10.88 circs per capita. So not only are we above that, but we're above it and have been for a long time. A lot of that, I think, is, and you'll see that in our stats later on, our digital is really, really high. And I think that offsets some of the decrease that we see in print, but actually our print is also going up. So a little preview for our own personal stats, that overall our circulations are actually going up in both print and digital, which is different and unique for us. Okay, so Oregon Library comparisons. So first off, I compare us to our state counterparts that have similar service populations. So these are all of the libraries that have a service population between 145,000 and 225,000. So if you're asking why I picked the particular libraries that I did, it's because of the service population that they serve. This is our materials expenditures. The first thing I want to share is, obviously we spend a lot more money than our counterparts. And the biggest thing that you'll notice is that digital. We do not participate in the statewide ebook lending program, whereas most of our counterparts do. And that's that big difference in the red that you see on this graph. Almost all of the rest of the public libraries around the state do participate in the state ebook lending program. The reason why we don't is a few reasons. One is the wait times on that program are extremely long. So if you think our customers are already upset about wait times, you can only imagine how upset they would be if we were a part of the statewide ebook lending program. The other part is that we don't have any control over the holds or really over the collection itself. So we aren't the curators of that collection, where our overdrive collection is ours. We are the keeper of it entirely. So we curate that entirely. We manage the holds entirely. We do keep an eye on the holds ratios. So the cost of that for us is worthwhile because of the benefit that we give back to our community, but it does come at a cost to our overall expenditure to our collection. The last thing is that is paid for through Lista, through the money from the federal government that is not necessarily coming through the state library right now. So a lot of those libraries that are wondering about Lista funds, that's one of those programs that they're all crossing their fingers and hoping for. So we have actually set ourselves up for a higher level of success where many of our counterparts are crossing their fingers and hoping that they have access to their ebooks through that state library program. So hopefully they're not in a place with their ebook platform the way that we have been with our physical books, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later, but that's that big difference in our expenditure. Thanks for holding your question. Write it down though, I see it at the tip of your tongue. The next thing you'll notice is, and I just for orientation, we are the red because it's a little small, so we are the red, we're the second one. So this is our materials per capita, and you can see that our physical collection is smaller than our peers. This has been a trend for a long time. And part of this is because our buildings are smaller. And where they haven't grown, right? And so that has been part of the evidence that we've given to our community about the need for our bond projects. So we're very excited about our new buildings, and we're excited to see the collection grow, and this will increase obviously with the bond projects and once the downtown Bend in particular is done, and we get to see the overall impact to the bond projects. This will have a pretty dramatic increase to the physical materials per capita. The other part of that, however, is that we are a popular lending library. So we are actively weeding our collection. We get rid of materials that aren't circling. We are removing the materials that are no longer of interest to our community. We also have lower profile shelving, as you've seen in Redmond, and the dynamic shelving that we have in Redmond. So those all have an impact to the size of the collection that maybe isn't the case with some of our peers. So a lot of the overall collection decisions that we've made have had an impact to the size of the physical collection that we've been able to give to our community that is a little different than what we've seen with some of our peers. However, again, because we own that digital collection, the overall collection per capita that we're able to provide is on par with what our peers are able to provide. And even with a smaller collection, back to it being a popular lending library, you see the impact of that, right? So it's small but mighty. So even though it's a smaller collection, it is performing pretty well. So you would expect it, with it being a smaller collection, for that to be a smaller quantity, but it is at a ratio is actually performing pretty well for the amount of materials that we have. And overall, our collections are performing at a pretty high level compared to our peers. So that is our collections compared to our peers. Okay, so where are we at with DPL? The first thing I'm going to point out before we even get to usage is I want to point out that right now, our years are going this way. I took these statistics 2 different times, and in a minute, they're gonna go the other way. So I want to just point out the difference in the directionals on these slides. So our print usage is going up, which again, as we saw in the national trends, that is not the national trend. The national trend is not that print or digital is going up. Actually, the national trend is that circulations for most public libraries is actually going down. So I'm actually incredibly proud of our library that we are able to not just sustain our use, but see increased use in our collection. And I think some of that is all of the exciting changes that we've made, the fact that we are able to stay innovative, but also the presentation that we just had with Liz and events and the programs that we have in-house, and all of the things that we are as a district keeps people excited about the library, keeps them coming in, and then keeps them checking out materials. But overall, we are seeing an increase in circulation. The other really cool thing about this particular statistic is in 24-25, we weren't even fully open. So a reminder that Redmond was partially closed. We were still moving in to the Redmond building. And even the Wayback Machine, Sun River wasn't fully open. Sun River was still being moved into, so our buildings weren't fully open, and to see an increase in circulation when all of our buildings weren't even fully open is pretty cool. I can't wait to see where our circulations are at when we have all of our buildings open and all of our collections are stabilized. We are very close to pre-COVID numbers, which has been my goal for a long time, is can we get back to pre-COVID? When, especially when most libraries are not seeing increases at all, like that would be very pie in the sky for me. And we are starting to see an increase in the collection size. So as I mentioned, our collections are small, but they are growing. So we have started with our remodels. So our smaller branches have already been remodeled, and Redmond has also been remodeled. So you can start to see the growth in the collection is starting to happen through those bond projects. Again, this will be a much more dramatic increase, especially when we get to the downtown Bend remodel. So the central remodel, it's getting the downtown Bend collection and the East Bend collection. So that entire building is getting 2 whole libraries collections, plus a little bit more, but you might not see as big of an increase next year because it's getting 2 whole libraries collections. But when downtown Bend opens, that entire building will be new, and that's when you'll start to see that really big increase in the collection size overall. And here's where you get your ears. I gave you a whole slide, so you know. Okay. Other trends, I've shared this one for a long time. Our disc formats are dying. However, DVDs, I want to point this one out. DVDs are holding pretty steady, and actually we did see an increase, a small increase last year. So small, but enough that it seems like it's stabilized a little bit. The other thing is if a circulation, overall circulation is still in 6 digits, so over 100,000 circs, that's nowhere close to like fully gone for us, right? That is still a very high demand collection for us. So if there's a question on the table of like, what about DVDs? When I say disc formats are dying, disc formats are dying, but DVDs are still obviously very beloved for our particular user base. And there's still no alternative for libraries. So we all have our paid streaming services. I don't know how many of us in this room have 5, 6, 7 of them, but they're all paid and not any one of them play nice with libraries. So you cannot get any one of those through a library program or a library service. They won't subscribe with libraries, which is, I know, really difficult because I can't tell you how many purchase suggestions we get for the Hulus or the Amazon originals, and they won't obviously come through, but because of that, the DVD is still a really strong format for us. That said, the audiobooks on CD have dramatically decreased. So 16,000 is in the extreme danger zone for us. That is a very, very, very low circulating collection for us. The other thing to note is that we have struggled for many years to even get them. So the publishers don't make them anymore, so it's not a collection that we are even able to really sustain as far as new purchases. When the discs break, we can't buy replacements. Even the players themselves are hard to come by. So for all of these reasons, with the remodeled spaces, we didn't give precious shelf space to a dying format. So when we moved into Central, we didn't make space for audiobook on CD, which means that when Downtown Bend closes, this collection is gone. So this is going to be a sunsetted collection for us, which is hard, right? There's still 16,000 circs, right? That's still, people are still using it. And if, I know Anne was part of the board when we let go of the music CDs. Anytime you let go of a collection, there will be questions. So I just wanted to prepare everyone as to the loss of this collection because it is coming. it is replaced with digital, so, and digital audiobook is not just for DPL, but for libraries all over, and even non-library users, but universally, the digital, audiobook is one of the highest growing ways that people are interacting with books. And it is unbelievable how fast people are growing with their audiobooks, how much they're gravitating towards their audiobooks, how much they're loving their audiobooks, which is incredible. It's awesome to see how much people are learning to love audiobooks and learning to love reading again through the auditory platform. Unfortunately, they're very, very expensive. So back to the very first slide that I shared in the expenditures and why our expenditures are so high. It's because these are our most expensive format that we buy. Every audiobook that we buy is usually over $100 per item. And typically we don't get to keep them perpetually. It's a 2-year rental, basically. So, after the 2-year access point, if it's still of high interest, so think about the Hunger Games, how many times we've had to buy the Hunger Games at $100 a pop. So, when I come to you with money year after year and you wonder why, it's often because I need to spend more money for those audiobooks, and because people are asking, why do I have a 6-month hold on my wait for that new, John Grisham, and it's because of the fact that they're so popular, but they're so expensive, and we're trying our best to balance the needs of everyone. And overall, you'll see the increase in both formats, which is great. So this is that slide where you're starting to see slight increase again in print, which we're very excited to see. And then that much larger growth in the digital formats, and that is largely, again, that digital audiobook is just skyrocketing for us. I'm sure you're interested in how Wayfinder is going. So Wayfinder and our remodel. So with Wayfinder, and I want to explain this slide a little bit before we go into it. I always want to prepare correlation is not causation, right? So we have our collections are not stable yet. So I really want to say, like, I want to say that any increase in circulation is definitely Wayfinder, it's definitely the remodels. But the reality is that our collections have been through a lot between moving all of Sisters and La Pine to downtown Bend, and then moving everything to Redmond, and then how exciting it is that Redmond is open, and then all of the different parts that happen in between. So maybe these increases are because of the fact that we've done some incredible things, or maybe it's just because our collections are really unstable right now. So ask me in 10 years is gonna be the actual answer, but how are they going? So the first is our most stable collection right now when looking at Wayfinder is Downtown Bend. It's the only collection that hasn't had a remodel, it hasn't had dynamic shelving. So if we were to say what's the only thing that has actually changed at Downtown Bend, if we wanted to test the impact of the new classification system, it would be looking at Downtown Bend, which is why I isolated just Downtown Bend for testing if Wayfinder is successful. So at Downtown Bend, the blue is the average percent checked out pre-Wayfinder. And the red is the average percent checked out post Wayfinder. And the pre-Wayfinder, just for comparison, is what is pre-Wayfinder, right? Because again, pre-Wayfinder could be anything. So I picked pre-COVID, because again, my goal is pre-COVID numbers. So my goal is to always be pre-COVID, get back to pre-COVID numbers. So you can see that for Downtown Bend, almost universally, for all of the collections that got air quotes Wayfinder, right? So the fiction and nonfiction collections and the DVD collections, there has almost universally been an increase in circulation for those collections at Downtown Bend. An easier way to look at that increase is here. So the collections that increased the most was almost a 30% increase in adult nonfiction, which was really the collection that we did this for. And then a 15% increase in kids nonfiction. You see the big drop in DVDs, which again is a dying format, and then pretty big drops in teens, but we know that teens are a struggling collection, that we are already working on various other options to see how to get teens to reuse the library. So may or may not be Wayfinder related. Overall, based off of this correlation is not causation, from my best assessment, I can say it seems as though Wayfinder has been successful so far. In Redmond, kids in particular has been really impactful. So this is the increase in the kids area in Redmond alone, and there's so many location codes that I didn't put them all on here, but I thought kids was just a really particularly important snapshot. You'll see the drop is in the new location codes, and the new locations are kind of hidden in Redmond. We didn't put them front and center. They're kind of hard to find. So this tells us maybe that's something that we need to relook at in Redmond. But overall, you see a really big increase in access and circulation in Redmond. But again, is that because of Wayfinder, or is that because it's fancy brand new building that is so exciting, and all of the manipulatives and all of the attention, and just, I mean, there could be a million reasons why there's such a high increase in Redmond. We also pay attention to the questions. So how many questions are we getting from our customers on help me find blank, right? So this is, again, an incomplete science. So how do we get this information? So this is called our reference desk tally. So I want to point that out, that it is a tally system that we do quarterly at our service points. But based off the tallies that happen quarterly, they will mark down what types of questions are asked at the service points. And if those questions are directional to collections, then that gets tallied. And so this is a trajectory down of the types of questions that have been asked over time that are collection related. And Wayfinder ended in January of 2023. So almost exactly right here. You can see that drop. Okay, so the last fun thing before we talk about Baker and Taylor are the fun collection changes that happened last year. So Library of Things, we are hoping to expand the Library of Things. Right now, we focus a lot on outdoor activities. I'm sure you see cooking, a lot of crafting, but we have a couple areas that we're hoping to expand that collection into. Those two areas of focus that we're hoping to build into are sensory and adaptive. So being able to buy more materials that are focused on being able to adapt to the world around you. So thinking about colorblind glasses or dyslexia, reading aids, or things of that nature. The other is home and repair. So the types of materials that you might need to help you home and repair, right? That you might only need once or twice without having to go and necessarily buy them all. Home and repair, I will tell you, is not a tool library. I'm not prepared personally to go down that liability road yet, but think about like a stud finder or maybe a stain remover or something like that. That's a little innocuous, but still incredibly helpful for our community. We did add Wall Street Journal online, which has been extremely popular. People have been very happy to get that access to the Wall Street Journal online. The other one is Peterson's test prep. So these are like your LSAT, your ACT, your SAT prep, all of those online. So they come with sample tests that you can take and any of the like prep that you need to take any of those tests to get into school. We also increased our hotspots up to 50, which is great. We've had long holds lists for as long as we've had the hotspot collection, and finally, we have enough that we've the holds list is down, that you actually have some on the shelves now, so people actually know that we have them. And then the sad one is the removal of hoopla, and that was, again, because the increased spending on that was extraordinary. Okay, so then what happened? All right. So our primary materials vendor, so the vendor that we buy our materials from, was Baker and Taylor. And Baker and Taylor was, slated to be purchased by a company called ReaderLink. And the sale to ReaderLink fell through. And because of the non-acquisition of the company, they were unable to continue forward and they unexpectedly closed their doors. That led to an extreme ripple effect that none of us saw coming. So all of the materials that we had on order were essentially canceled. So everything that was in processing, they said, maybe we'll send it to you, we'll let you know. But everything that isn't in processing was immediately canceled. And they basically said, good luck. And we'll give you a call maybe. So we luckily do have other vendors that we work with. And so we were able to call our backup vendor and move many of those orders over to our backup vendor. Unfortunately, we are among 5,000 public libraries that have done that. So our backup vendor is also now inundated with orders, and they are also extremely now backlogged trying to catch up on all of these materials. The other impact is that Baker and Taylor was the vendor that was supplying us with our opening day collections for our buildings. So the biggest impact is that the opening day collection that we need for the central library that is supposed to open in a few months, that was also canceled. So these vendors that are now inundated and overwhelmed with all of these orders from Baker and Taylor clients and libraries, they can't supply the opening day collection. They don't have the capacity to do that. So we needed to find a way to supply the materials that we need for the central library. So how are we doing that? So the first thing that we needed to do is identify what needs to happen first. So what needs to happen first is we need to make sure that we open up central with materials. So the first thing first is what is happening on each floor. So level 3, which is mainly the adult materials, as I mentioned, all of the downtown Bend collection and all of the East Bend collection is going to Central. So between what we have for both of those libraries, the level 3 collection is fully stocked. So we're not gonna need materials for the opening day collection for level 3. It should be fully stocked between those two libraries. When we get to level 2, which is the kids collection, we are down anywhere between 10 and 20,000 items. So there are vendors that are kid material specific that are not the main vendors that people are flooding to. And so they often are suppliers for schools. So they aren't the types of vendors that a public library is typically gonna go to. So we have been in conversation with basically schools supplying vendors to see if they can actually provide us with the missing quantity that we need for Central. We have identified a vendor that is doing everything they can, and it sounds like they are going to come through with us and provide us with the materials that we need for that central library. That vendor, the other missing part is that it's not gonna come shelf ready. So I'm not sure if you were able to see the video that I helped with the help of our marketing team. These materials are not gonna come shelf ready. So we have another vendor that is gonna come in and help us get the materials processed. So that's gonna be part of the move-in schedule to get those materials final processed for the shelves for Central. So that's Central. So that's step one. Step two is opening day collection for Downtown Bend. So we, with the help of Robert and Lynn and one of our collection development librarians, we immediately put out a request for proposal for the opening day collection for Downtown Bend. The collection size for that building is gonna be between 80 and 100,000 items. So in order to build a collection of that size, typically a vendor is gonna need between 12 and 18 months to build a collection of that size. So we needed to put out that RFP as soon as possible. So that RFP is live right now, and we're expecting bids back here in December. And we're gonna come back to you in January with a vendor to select for the ODC for Downtown Bend, and then we'll move forward with that vendor to be able to get the materials ready for the Downtown Bend collection. And then the last element is who is our main supplier moving forward for our materials moving forward. So right now we are purchasing on our kind of backup vendor. And we really need to have all of our ducks in a row. So we need to go up for RFP for primary materials vendors so that everyone has had a chance to bid for our business. So Robert and my team, we will be putting out an RFP for primary materials vendor with the new year. So you'll see another RFP coming out from us to get that solidified. We are hoping that a new vendor will be able to get our materials to us shelf ready. They are all backlogged right now. They are all trying to buy or hire additional staff and to get back on track. But right now, it's just, we need to give compassion to them and frankly, compassion to tech services, because when we're getting materials in, like we got a shipment, finally, we got a shipment in this week, but it was so big that we're actually still just trying to receive it. We don't have the capacity right now to do the processes that used to happen automatically. So it's just everyone's backlogged trying to catch up. So we're working on it, but it is creating a backlog to access of materials to our public, and people are seeing it. They're asking, why have I not gotten this book by street date? And it's because of this ripple effect that happened with our vendor that is just a nationwide impact for public libraries all over.
One reminder for the board, because none of you were here when the board selected Baker and Taylor as our primary vendor. That's something we typically, maybe every 5 years, we come back and say, who we're talking about. So originally, it was the board, because of the amount we spend, it was the board that approved that.
And then the last thing is that last bullet is, just when budget comes around, just a reminder about the cost of those audiobooks, cause they're always going up. Okay, I'm ready for your questions.
Let loose. I know you have them.
Yeah,
I have just a couple,
Yeah.
thank you, Emily, it was
Yeah.
really super helpful. You were talking about purchase suggestions. I was just curious, how frequently do you review those and how do you decide which ones you incorporate into the collection?
I love that question. So we review our purchase suggestions every day. Yeah, so our collection development librarians, review them based off of their selection areas. And, we review it through our collection development criteria. So if it fits our collection development criteria, then we get it. And if it doesn't, then we often ping them to ILL. So we hopefully are not turning down the information need. It's just if it fits for our collection, if it belongs for the overall community, then we will buy it. Or if it feels like it's a better option for just that one individual and their information need, then we will suggest that they get it through interlibrary loan.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have two questions.
Okay.
On your data about the teen fiction numbers dropping after Wayfinder, do you think, and I was assuming that, the manga numbers jumped because you didn't have that before Wayfinder, do you think the teen fiction dropped because you added manga, or am I reading that incorrectly?
That is quite possible. So, our manga collection is our like highest surging teen collection. It is like skyrocketing.
At my house as well.
And I do think, and I wonder if that is an impact. I just am not certain if that, because they're so different.
Mhm.
And so I'm just not sure if it's because teens are gravitating towards manga and so they're choosing that over fiction. That would be my guess, but I'm just excited to see how high the manga is. Like, it's not that the teens aren't using the collection, and it's just not on that screen because we didn't have it before, but yeah. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. And then my second question was, will Ingram remain as the backup materials provider, or will you also have an RFP for the backup?
Yeah, so right now, they are who we have because they're who we have. So they will remain until we get the RFP in place. So yeah, they'll be who we purchase from until we get the primary materials vendor RFP finalized.
Will they remain the backup at that point, or will there
Oh.
also be an RFP?
You know, honestly, I think that will come out through the RFP process. So what happened last time is that we actually awarded a primary and a secondary, and actually a tertiary. So our tertiary was Midwest tape for our DVDs, so they were for a specialty format. And so my recommendation at that point is to award a primary, a secondary, and tertiary. I'm assuming Midwest tape will continue to provide us with our DVDs. The company that is helping us with the materials for the central, I can imagine that they would be a really good backup for us. They're putting a lot of processes in place to try and get everything in place for that shelf ready and for the Edifact ordering that we need. And so I can imagine they might be a really good backup, but I don't want to make any promises outside of a bid process. So, and there's a lot of companies out there, more than there were when we did it before. So I'm excited to see when bids come back. But one very big lesson learned to that point is it is really good to be diversified, and I'm grateful that we had a backup vendor to go to. We were extremely lucky in that. I cannot tell you how many libraries didn't have a backup, and the fact that we did left us in a much better spot. And so I think it is pivotal that we have at least someone else that we are ordering some things from.
Um. I have a couple questions. One, how does the increase in circulation correlate with our increases in population in Deschutes County?
I have often wondered that. Interestingly, we haven't had a dramatic increase in our cardholders. And so I would say it would be more a correlation of an increase in cardholders to an increase in circulation. Because that would be the number of people with cards versus the number of people checking materials out. So if we got more of our population coming in with more cards, then we would see an even higher increase. So, hopefully we get there one day, but I don't think we're seeing as many, I don't think we're seeing a direct correlation between card holders and increase in population. So
Yeah,
not seeing that yet.
yeah, that's interesting. That's a
Yeah.
good way to check it. I like
Yeah.
that. The 10 to 20,000 shortfall that we have in the kids collection for the central library. What percentage of the collection is that? That just to benchmark, like how short are we? What does 10 to 20,000 units mean?
Right now we have about 50,000. So I would say about 10% of the collection.
10,000 of 50,000 is 20%, right?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So we could be anywhere from 20% to 40% short.
Yeah, and
Okay.
one thing that's really complicated is the metrics that the architects give us for how much capacity fits on the shelves doesn't necessarily match our metrics of how much capacity fits on the shelves, which is why we're so off, is that we have tried to come back and forth with the architects of like, is it this much? Is it that much? And so that's why there's such a big range. If we end up buying more than we need, what we'll do is we'll actually set it aside for the opening day collection for downtown Bend or distribute it to other branches because we have a floating collection. So right now we're actually buying at the high level to make sure that it is fully stocked. And then if we need to, then we'll redistribute throughout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Going to the loss of the supplier, like if you look at the idea of supply and demand and impact that has on pricing. Are you expecting, or are you already kind of seeing increases in what they're able to charge for the books that we're getting for our new collections? And then do you see any new players entering the field to fill that void that was left by Baker and
Taylor.
Taylor?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
To your first question, one of the, again, lucky, I guess, or strategic is probably a better way to put it, aspects of what happened with having a backup vendor is we already had a discount structure in place that was part of a purchase agreement. And so our purchase agreement was signed and solidified by both vendor and ourselves. So our discount with them is solid. So even if they raise prices, because our discount is so high, frankly, it shouldn't have a dramatic increase until that expires. We're not seeing an increase yet, although that's a really valid point. We are seeing a lot of new vendors trying to break into the field. So a lot of the suppliers that I've mentioned that supply to schools in particular are breaking in. So or trying to break in. There've been a lot of people saying, hey, we're here, we can help with public libraries. And so I think they're doing their best. Public libraries, they're not necessarily as used to the software systems that we use. They're not necessarily as used to the type of processing that we need. And so they have some foundation that they need to put in place. We're extra complicated because we're so much bigger. And because we do have these bond projects and because we have our specialty classification system. But I do think that they are if they're willing to grow and they're willing to grow fast, that there's gonna be some opportunity there. And then there's also like the megas, right? Like the Amazon is of course trying to break in. But the same rules apply, like Amazon. It's not prepared to interface with our software systems or to provide us with the data points that we need or to do the processing that we need yet. Doesn't mean they're not going to, but there are things that we need in order for our workflows to be efficient that they aren't there yet. But that will all come out in an RFP process. So if they are ready, we'll know about it in an RFP.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for helping me kind of understand all those different things. And I'm
Yeah.
always just like, continually, impressed with the thoughtfulness of how you guys put in plan A and plan B and, you know, sometimes plan C and how, yeah, it comes in to save the day. So, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, here's my question.
Okay.
Let's see, the graph that showed total circulation, across the comparables. I think I noticed that our library, it was about 50-50, electronic materials versus the other kind of materials. Would you say, you also described how we own our electronic materials collection and the comparables use the state materials. So would you say that is what contributes to our circulation kind of having that 50-50?
Absolutely.
Compared with the other ones?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is a bit, thank you. And I was gonna point that out during this slide and I forgot. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, so this is a big difference between that state provided ebook platform and our ebook platform is that these are all us. And these, they had to wait, right? Or they had to this shared platform. And so, you know, the amount of circs they're able to provide is so much less.
And you probably described this, but just, remind me, is the state materials collection, more affordable, and is that why?
It is.
cities- And then are these comparable to departments of cities versus being a special district?
I don't know, I think.
You have one, Jackson County is a special district, Eugene, Beaverton, Salem are all city, and, I forgot what Hillsborough, I think Hillsborough is a city,
City, I think.
yeah.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I
Yeah,
just-
and what Emily is saying about the wait times on the state collection, I mean, it's a invaluable resource for many libraries in the state because they just could not afford to offer audiobooks at all if they had to do it like we're doing it. But the wait times are so long that, I mean, it's kind of an in your lifetime type of a thing. So yeah, I think Emily is correct that our users would be shocked if we stop doing what we're doing, because our collection is tailored for the interests of our community and it's way more responsive. So yeah, we do have some hold times now, but it's still way better than most people experience at their public library.
Pretty much, we made that decision like 20 years ago and it has stayed true. Like what was down here would have happened, it happened.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for, 19 years.
Wow. It's a very smart decision. Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah, I had a question on hold times or hold ratios, Emily.
Sure.
I know that well, I don't know what the status of hold ratios are right now, and they were always different for physical materials versus digital materials, but now with the pricing of the digital audiobooks, do we use hold ratios at all to buy
We
additional
do,
copies?
yeah. Yeah, we still maintain the hold ratios, with print, it's 3 to 1 still. And with the digital, it is different for each of the selectors, so, and I will verify with all the collection development librarians and make sure I get this right. So I'll get it to you for sure tomorrow, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that the kids is at 3-1 still.
And just so 3 people that are waiting for a book, we buy a copy. And
Thank
if
you,
6
Todd.
people want, we buy 2.
Yeah, thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
And then I believe with adult fiction, it's at 6-1. And adult nonfiction, I believe it's at 8-1, but I will verify that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And maybe have those inversed. It is a little bit higher for the adult collections just because it is so expensive. And so you do see those longer hold times, but they do still monitor it. And actually it is one of our biggest expenses is maintaining those holds.
Right, I can imagine. It's
Yeah.
especially as they become more popular.
Yeah.
You get more and more requests for sure.
From personal experience, when I have seen number of people waiting on a hold, that seems accurate.
Yeah.
In the big one that Emily has reminded us in the past, that 70% of our digital materials are available right now. And so the long wait lists are for those really popular ones. So we really try to encourage people to find other resources as well to supplement what they're doing.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the overdrive collection is over 100,000 items. And just for comparison, our print collection is 300,000 items, so it's not a small collection. And yeah, about 25 to 30% of it is checked out at any one time, so there's 70,000 items to check out.
So does the Libby app have the capability to look at what I'm reading and make suggestions of available books that I might want to read?
I don't know if it will do like based off of what you're reading now, but it will say available now. You can
Yeah.
definitely filter to available
I
now.
do see the available now, but I'm like, how do I
Lynn
get
says
the
yes.
ones that I want?
Lynn says yes.
Really?
Yeah, when you return them and stuff, it does.
I'll talk to you.
It does similar with,
Yeah.
if you go down to the bottom.
Yeah, I do see that. Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks, friends. I have friends
Okay.
in the audience.
Yes.
Yeah, the one thing that I would suggest to people is if you want more information about how selections are made, to go to that policy, that collection development policy, because it really lays it out in detail about what criteria they use to purchase books, what they purchase and what they don't purchase. So in light of this discussion, I think you might find it instructive, because being a public lending library has big ramifications in what books get bought. And, very different from a school library, very different from an academic library, obviously, and very different from a research library. So it's a fascinating subject, but there's lots more available. And then Emily is always very responsive to questions. So if more questions bubble up, you can always contact her.
Like any good librarian.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay, I think we've got a lot more to get through tonight. So thank you very much, Emily. This is always a great presentation and highly interesting.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and I guess we have our collection development monitoring report. So Todd, would you like to review that?
Yeah, I will actually speed it up and just hopefully you've had a chance to read it. My analysis is that we are in compliance with the collection development executive limitations policy. I think, and the reason I'm keeping that short is Emily just provided an hour's worth of here's
Right,
how much
information
attention
on it.
to give to this, so so I will open up to any questions. Otherwise, you have my analysis and that we are in compliance.
Any questions for Todd? Or I would entertain a motion then?
I move that the library district is in compliance with the collection development executive limitations policy.
I second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. I almost forgot that. I got so excited over Emily's presentation. Next up is Greg with our bond update report.
Absolutely. So kind of run through it. It's pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot of change or activity that generated differences of things. From a schedule standpoint, probably the most critical is how we're doing on Central. Working towards completion of construction at the end of December and being prepared then to start the FF&E moving in the process. And, you know, it's a big push for Kirby and their subcontractors, for all of us. Getting to that point, I think we're right on track to be there to get we'll get a temporary certificate of occupancy from the city to allow us to move in and start stocking and staffing and everything else. And we'll get a permanent certificate of occupancy later on to open to the general public, which is how we've strategized that. Kirby's had conversations with the city inspectors and building department and fire department and stuff already, and they've already started that final inspection process. And you work away at it for, in this case, almost 2 months. So it's a overall schedule in really good shape there. Downtown Bend is just progressing along. It's working its way to get prepared, ready to go. Come March and April, when we start that transition of closing it, Kirby's doing a lot of pre-work, pre-planning with our design team, with the EPL team, of how we're gonna do that. We've really put a lot of time and effort into how we phase the shutdown of downtown Bend. It actually goes over a period of almost 2.5 months from when we first start closing components to when it's 100% closed. And that's all interlocked with how we're moving into Central and setting up Central for it to get ready to open. And so been a lot of planning effort that's been going on for months, but it's intensified this last month. Coming in here to November on move planning and how we're gonna move people, how we're gonna move stuff, closing of East Bend. So all of that's being in our schedule. We look at our master development schedules to see if any little tweaks and changes that we want to do. A lot of it's internal. There's no big changes to any major dates. There's soft changes within little activities of how to do things and work with things. So from a schedule standpoint, still very comfortable with that. We'll probably do an update to our master development schedule here after the new year, just taking into consideration. But I don't expect there to be any big changes to opening dates or anything of that nature. As on the budget side, as you saw, there really was no changes to the budget. One of the big things that we have that we're doing right now is we got our latest arbitrage report and we're going through that whole evaluation. And so that really looks at how the bond investments are going and what that means to us. There's a point where as we earn interest on our investments, we can utilize those funds. And then there's a point where we have to release those funds back over to the government. And so the arbitrage about auditor evaluator helps us understand that. They're doing some additional studies for us right now so that we can really look at what's our forecast going forward. We really took a hard look at how our construction cost is going and how our development costs are going on Central to see how that's doing. You know, we did a authorization for some increases on Central back a couple months ago we're still tracking along where I expect it to be. I'll probably bring another authorization next month for that. One, I need to get ahead of it because I won't be able to do it in January because I'm gonna have my other meeting. So I told the Kirby guys that we really gotta plan ahead so that we don't find ourselves in a bind later. And it's really to be in a position that as we finalize costs, we can go to Todd. Doesn't change our overall budget or anything, it just changes the authorization level. So we'll talk more about that next month. From a budgeting standpoint, that's really the only thing I'm expecting to see here, the rest of this year. We'll see more coming in January and February, which is typically when I do a full evaluation of the budget and where we're at with the projects, where we're at with the arbitrage, and be able to update you completely at that time. So, the other activities on the project as far as, current contracts, change orders and that kind of stuff, things that we talked about last month on authorizations, those have flown through. There's not a lot of activity there. The insurance, no issues, no claims, so that's always a good thing. We monitor that every month, but it's been very, low impact from that standpoint, which is what you want. And so I would say that is continuing right along from that standpoint. Funding, we are burning at a high rate right now, which we had anticipated with Central. Those construction draws are, in the $5 to $6 million range every month, which is a really large amount on most projects here in this region. I know Kirby has said that we set a record for them, in how much we produced in a month, and which really reflects how much work is happening out there, process that going on. So I think that has been real positive. It's an indicator for me that if we're burning those dollars, it means we're putting work in place, and then we see it ultimately as really getting to the finish line. So, I think from overall design and construction, that's probably the notes. There's not any real changes in design. Nothing's really happened over the last month. We're, just cleaning up downtown Bend. We pulled our permit, our building permit. Remember that happened before our last meeting, but that's pulled and in place, so we're ready actually to start construction on downtown Bend. We'll have some of our deferred submittals and our plan revisions go through, but at this point, there's very little design. It's all about construction and moving and setting up all of our FF&E. So I can say on Central, our FF&E vendors are all ready to go, which is really good because we told them we really got to have them prepared with having all their materials fabricated, purchased in warehouses, and it's really starting. We can see it where they're getting to that point, and so that when we hit the road running on January 5th, they're all going to be in there. So, kind of marched right through my report. And questions? Yeah.
That's great.
Hit on everything for you?
Yeah.
Bird?
I think, as always, you provide us with complete information, Greg. So if no one has any questions for Greg, we'll move into our action item and for the bond program on the Central Library Coffee Shop lease.
Yeah, so it should be deja vu. We just did this last month. The Thump Coffee changed their name to Thump Coffee DCL LLC. There was a minor revision on some of the wording, but this is the final lease agreement. So we just wanted to make sure that we're being extra cautious and making sure you have the exact right information for your resolution. This one, resolution 27 states that you have already done the process in resolution 26 of declaring that the premises was surplus. And so this is really just adopting those minor changes. And yes, I'll open it to question, but my recommendation is that we move to adopt resolution 27.
Any questions for Todd? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
All right, I move to adopt resolution 27.
I second.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next we have an executive session, and the Deschutes Public Library District will conduct an executive session to conduct deliberations with designee on real property transaction negotiations pursuant to ORS 192.6602E. So I would like to adjourn the regular meeting and open the executive session. Okay, I'm going to adjourn our executive session and call us back into regular session.
And just give us a couple of minutes, we're gonna check and see if any attendees wish to join us.
Okay,
I believe we have one. I'm gonna start with library news, though. Just highlight, Saturday is the last day of East Bend. As those of you who attended last Saturday, you noticed there are not any books in the building. So it should be somewhat of a quiet event, but it'll be a big change, obviously, for everybody. And that's really like when the work starts, so.
I'm sorry, did you press record again?
Yes, I've been recording the whole time.
Oh, the whole time.
You've got your novel idea unveiled, December 6th. It's a fun event. This will be our last one at Downtown Bend, at least for a while. So, a last chance to party there.
yeah,
And, okay, so if you indulge me for just a minute, I have a short statement to read. In 1999, I moved to Central Oregon, excited to become part of a growing library team and a growing community. It was an amazing opportunity to be part of a new library district with stable funding. As our community rapidly grew, so too did our libraries. All along the way, I've had the good fortune to work with an incredibly dedicated library staff, volunteers, and supporters, and it's been my honor to serve. But part of excellent service is knowing when to pass the torch. We currently have the best trained and dedicated staff, the strongest leadership team, and the most engaged library board of my career. Our buildings are now new, remodeled, and ready to serve our community for years to come. I can leave knowing that our community is in good hands. To that end, I am announcing that I will be retiring effective September 1st, 2026. I am announcing at this early date to allow ample time for the library board to conduct a national search to recruit a library director to lead us into the future. I want to thank you all for making the past 26 years such a joy.
thank you, Todd. We don't get to vote not to accept your letter. But I think the sentiment is totally there. You have really helped this organization grow and thrive and develop over and some incredible hurdles, including taking over during probably the worst recession that we've had for quite some time. And you managed us through all of that with no layoffs. You've been fiscally prudent, and I won't go on and on about your attributes because we'll save that until next September. But I hope you know how much the board, not only the board, but the community appreciates your service, and I know the staff appreciates your leadership as well. So we have obviously this is a huge turning point in the history of our district. Embarking on this search, and this will be an important step forward. We've really worked hard on these facilities, and as we've talked about in work sessions and in board meetings, this is setting the stage for the next era of library services in Deschutes County. So the selection of a leader that has foresight, that has vision to come in right now, this is probably it's hard. It's going to be very hard to lose Todd, but we're also, I think that the timing on this is probably very good. Part of this is that we are going to launch, as Todd said, a national search using a recruiting firm. This is the approach that we took when Todd was selected. We had candidates apply from all over the nation, and Todd rose to the top of the pool. He was the unanimous choice of the board at the time. So there are going to be many steps throughout this process, and I'm going to rely on every member of the board full participation, because I know that you've all expressed, you're all hardworking, you're dedicated to your job, and we're going to need all of your best thoughts as we move through this process. I'm going to ask Jennifer to speak, to kind of outline parts of the process, and if she'd like to say a few words.
Yes, and I'm going to share with you a document that Jennifer has prepared that just gives you a timeline so you know what to expect, what's coming. So yes,
Right.
and I will send this out to you after the meeting too.
Great. Well, thank you, Anne, and kind of doing this rather in a bittersweet moment here, but nonetheless, just we wanted to kind of kick off the discussion going forward with making sure that we had a general timeline. Obviously, today starts the clock ticking, but we put together a multi-phase timeline for the director recruitment process that will be, managed through you all. I will serve as your liaison. I'm, here to remove obstacles and make sure that your role is as easy and smooth as possible during this transition. What I have here is just a very general timeline that involves making sure that we get organized in phase one. By phase two, which we anticipate starting the first of the year, is engaging a search firm through our RFQ process, having some time to do our due diligence on that process, having the board steering committee do a selection and notice of intent to award to the third party that'll be doing the search. And then moving on, and things really start getting real here in February, we anticipate opening a application window for really a recommended 45 days. Again, I just want to step aside and say these are, there's not necessarily any magic to this. So of course, if there needs to be some flex here, obviously there can be. And then we will close the posting window on April 1st of 26. And then moving into candidate evaluation, in the, late April timeframe, we'll have completed semifinalist interviews. And then moving on into May, we are hopeful to have finalist visits, here, in the community, with community forums completed. And then, moving on into late May, into mid-June, the board is going to be heavily involved in that interview and selection process. And we're hopeful that by the mid-June timeframe, we have an contingent offer executed and public announcement planning. And then phase 6, if all prior phases go well, we hope to have the
Sorry, we're getting patches.
Anyway, we hope to, as we wrap up, have our chosen candidate start with us the 1st of August with the intent of giving that person the benefit of a full month working side by side with you all and with Todd as he kind of transitions his 26 years of knowledge into his successor and hopefully onto a successful new hire experience for our new directors.
Right. Thank you, Jennifer. I think there's going to be of all the things, all the responsibilities that the board has. This is our major one because Todd's our only employee, and it is up to us to guide this process. So we're going to be asking for input from everybody all the way along. I anticipate having work sessions to discuss this and meeting with the search firm that we select because we need to be able to articulate to them what our vision is and what type of leader we're looking for. So there's going to be a lot of exciting work ahead. This board steering committee will consist of me as board president, one other board member. Jennifer will act as the liaison, and then we'll be calling upon staff as needed during the process. But you will be making the decisions. We will all be involved in this every step of the way. And does anybody have reactions to the timeline? I know this is your first time seeing it, but does this sound about right?
Where are we gonna fit the budget in?
The budget process? Well, that'll be in May. So, yes.
Yeah, this is kind of like the building project. This is kind of like the building projects. This is in addition to all the things. And you can have some time to look at this and reflect, and I would really encourage you to call me or to call Jennifer if you have questions or comments. I will be announcing the steering committee next week. But like I said, the steering committee is just designed to help Jennifer move the process along so that we have documents to put in front of the boards for them to react to rather than to have us all try to work through all these, various decisions together, which would be very time consuming. And so that's kind of what we've got planned right now. So take a look at this, and if you have reactions, let me know. And we also want to make sure throughout this process that we are not conducting any type of work via email as far as things that will get us into a discussion online because of Oregon public meeting laws. We can't do that. So we have to be careful about making this a transparent process so the public knows what we're doing. And yeah.
One thing that will really help this process, we're trying to schedule a December work session. I think Lori, Michelle, I don't know if you've seen Lori, it's got a doodle poll out. I haven't seen, I'm gonna have a call you then. Something's happening with the email then. And other pieces, just so you know, we will be sending out a press release tomorrow after we have an all staff Zoom meeting tomorrow. I'll be announcing it to staff in the morning, and then we'll send out a press release. So it'll be out there.
Right. So yeah, so getting a firm date for December is really important, and So if you can work with Lori on that and let her know your availability, then we can get something set up. And I anticipate there will probably be things throughout the winter that we're really going to want to brainstorm together and talk about these things in addition to our regular work sessions that we have around results, priorities, and things like that. So any further questions or?
I just want to say that, you are leaving big shoes to fill for everything that you've done, over the years for the library, for the people who work in the buildings, for our community that gets to enjoy them. But in true Todd fashion, I feel like you also set us up really well for, finding our next director, right? And we have, these beautiful new buildings filled with amazing, passionate staff people and people committed to the library's work. And so I appreciate that we're in such a good position looking for this candidate to come in and be our next director too. So I think Anne's right. It's very exciting and bittersweet, all wrapped up into one. But sometimes that's what opportunity looks like too. We can't force you to stay, so we're grateful we're in this position, you know, due to your hard work and everyone else's hard work, to move forward into the next chapter too. So thank you, and thank you, Jennifer. This whole timeline is so nice to have it bulleted out to really chunk out, okay, this is what we need to accomplish and something
Make
when.
a photocopy of this.
Yeah.
Take it with them.
That would be great. Yeah, yeah,
Ditto what Michelle said. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, lots to come. Just to finish up, do you have any foundation news, Michelle?
I do. So the foundation had a really fun event 2 weeks ago. It was called Booked for the Evening, and it was held at Aubrey Glen, and it was just a really lovely casual kind of cocktail hour to support the library. And so the foundation raised, I think, almost $20,000. Sarah was great. She came and did a really nice presentation explaining the Ready to Read program and our early literacy efforts that the library is doing, and just got people really excited about supporting that. And so the foundation is looking forward to kind of supporting those efforts for the library moving forward, and hoping to kind of help fill in those gaps of funding sources, and also just kind of like launching new programs. So that's my fun thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It was a lovely event, and yeah, kudos to the foundation for planning and executing so well. It was really nice, and then it was also very effective. So thank you for all that hard work.
A little, like, we had cocktails, like, we had, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margarita. Then we had Murder on the Orient Espresso martini, and so it was fun and such good energy, and there were a lot of new faces supporting the library too, which was really fun.
Right, all those events are just information to tell what we're doing to new groups of people, and people were very excited by what they heard. Okay, I know it's late, but does anybody have good of the order comments? Laura?
Yes, I will briefly say I had a really fun time at the Halloween activities for the kids. It was such a great event, and that room was packed, very well attended, and the staff did a fabulous job just making it really welcoming and fun.
Well, thank you. Betsy?
I would just add that I showed up at the East Library event on Saturday. And it was a lot of fun. Tons of people were there. And I got the opportunity to chat with a neighbor who was very excited about kiosks and wondering when we would stop. So I just told him to keep an eye on the budget, and once we see it in the budget, then he'll know getting closer to happening. So he was really excited about that. And the folks that I talked to were, of course, sad to see the East Library closed, but excited about the Central Library. So that was a lot of fun.
Great, great. Aaron?
I was actually able to attend a couple things this last month. The first one was the third Thursday open mic night that we saw the photo that was
Right.
presented at the SCP Hotel in Redmond. I was blown away by the talent of the individuals who presented their own written work in like an open poetry open mic, and it just amazed at the talent that exists in our community. And I probably will go back. I didn't expect that I would enjoy it so much, but I want to go back. And I took my youngest kiddo to an Ice Age event put on by the Oregon Archaeological Society, and started planning probably our next national parks trip based on the information that we learned there. And then I also
Nice.
attended the East Bend farewell party, which was amazing to see that. Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Michelle?
I finally got to see the new Central Library, so I didn't go with you guys when you went a couple months ago, but I went with the foundation board, and just so blown away by all of the elements of it, and so excited to see that open up and people in the building, and yeah, so that was definitely my high.
That's wonderful. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the East Bend closure. I had intended, but I could not make it. But yeah, I think that is a bittersweet event. I mean, that started as an experiment and it was wildly successful. It was, we were, I think, one of the first public agencies to really react to the growth on that side of town and to recognize the need, and people really responded to that branch, which is wonderful. And we've got more of that in the future. I guess the only thing that I have to relate is that, and this is kind of subsidiary news, with the federal restrictions on IMLS funds that are hitting libraries, there was going to be a very large shortfall in salary amounts for the library support division within the State Library of Oregon, and the Oregon Library Association stepped up and contributed $88,000 towards that shortfall, which I just found was remarkable. The people in that division are the people that work with libraries all over the state, providing help on everything from how to form a library to district to how to set up policies and procedures for smaller districts that may not have any expertise in being able to do that. They coordinate all kinds of information sharing, provide all kinds of resources, and their work is really valued. And the fact that OLA stepped up in that manner is just outstanding. I mean, it's just a clear demonstration that the work that they do is valued by libraries all over the state. So I just wanted to give a shout out to OLA because I thought it was really a wonderful thing. So with that, I think we're done. Thanks for your patience. I know this has been a long meeting, but we certainly learned a lot, and we had a lot of things to get through. So thanks very much. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And